A 120-year rivalry full of twists and turns, the unexpected and the spectacular. It can only be the All Blacks against France. This is a problem here with Sevu Reece.
Yeah, he instantly sparked out.
They go to the line, they're over. Well, what a dramatic twist. France scores the first try of the series. Floats the ball wide, and it's Will Jordan who scores. They get there, the All Blacks, on the right, and a try of the year. What a great start to the second half for Les Bleus. Slicing through. And scoring is Will Jordan. Ball lost though, Talfa Finua. And the All Blacks have won the first test against France, but not before a monumental struggle. This unfancy, new-look French team fought every single minute, every millimetre of the way.
Hello and welcome to The Breakdown. Yes, the All Blacks season, it is underway and it took everything. It took 81 minutes to secure what was a hard-fought victory over the French team down in Dunedin in front of 29,000 fans. And I'll tell you what, it was electric. And France, they were very, very good. So much for us to look forward to on tonight's show. Plenty to discuss and debate, not just here, but abroad. And there's been some fascinating results from around the world. Who have I got tonight? Well, Team Chiefs pretty much all together. Some Blues now. We've got a mixture of everything, but all Blacks. That's the most important thing. Stephen Donald, we've got Angus Ta'avao, we've got Aaron Cruden. Let's start with last night. Beaver, how did you feel after that performance for the All Blacks? Or how did you feel going through the first Test match of the year?
No, I loved it, Goldie. Obviously, it wasn't the perfect scenario, but for me, I enjoyed the intent. We've talked about the speed of game. There's intent to play quicker and the intent, I guess, from a back's point of view, to really have a crack first phase, which I think from last year, comparatively, big step up.
Yeah, for me, I think it was sort of your standard first test match of the year, right? There was obviously a lot of good with a little bit of obvious rust, and the rust probably came on the defensive side of the ball. Have to echo what Beavers just said, though. I do like the intent and probably a little bit of the interplay with backs and forwards once we went multi-phase, which was great.
Let's talk to the forwards. Oh. Give us some perspective. Give us some reality check for us.
I might, you guys just talked Davies. I just want to give a little bit of love to the French. You know, we've talked about a 20 Frenchmen, big dogs left up north, 7 debutants for them. The big Canadian-born Tyler de Good, if I should say, he talked about the outside noise and how they were going to get 50 on them, but the belief within them, I think, showed up. But back to the ABs, I was happy. I thought I saw some real heart from the debutants, little tinkering with some of the players in there, Tupuvai at 6. Enough for me to get excited, get a little bit of blood in it, you know, get warm fuzzies.
I knew that the up guy was here. The up guy is here.
The up guy.
The up guy is here.
Not yet.
We'll see what happens over the next hour. We'll see what happens over the next hour. As always, though, over the last couple of weeks, this is what we've brought in. Your opportunity with your shout to vote on, I think, it's important about last night's game. And the first one was, how did you feel as though the All Blacks played? This is what we ended up with. 29% of you said poor, 65% of you said good. So 2/3 of you, as fans, decided they played good. And then there was those real up guys, the 6% that was great. I think maybe a little bit of relief, but obviously saw the positives coming out of the All Blacks. Scan that QR code when you get the opportunity. Take your opportunity to vote on all of the topics we've got there, and we'll chat through those through the show. Can't wait to get on with it. Here's what's coming up in the next hour.
We look at the All Blacks' first Test performance and celebrate some impressive debuts. Is there too much interference from the TMO? Who starts on the right wing in the second Test? And we ask on your shout, which team impressed you the most this weekend?
So you've said we were good, on the whole, 2/3 of you. This is how the international media have reacted to this game. And clearly, when there was talk about this French side coming down to New Zealand, it wasn't the strongest squad. A lot of those players, what Angus talked about, 20 of them not being here. New Zealand got a rude surprise. French rookies rise to the occasion. All Blacks stumble over the line. Huge scare. All Blacks nervous. Do you think this is fair, Beaver, in terms of the international media? Given it was our very first Test match of the year, a lot of these French players actually played a couple of games together before this tour and played England. How do you react to that?
Well, I mean, of course, the international media is going to go down that route. I look at it from a point of view, if we sent our so-called B team out there, or our second stringers, we would expect that they would go toe-for-toe with the French team in Paris, even though, you know, probably there would be a difference in class like I thought there was last night. But France were never going to just disappear last night, Goldie. They were always going to front. These guys are, they might not have 100 caps or 50 caps, and they might not be DuPont, but they're not exactly poor footballers.
We weren't comfortable, though. In some ways, if I look at this performance, we'll be so much better for this kind of challenge. The fact that you've given young players a chance. There are a number of debutants. When you take 4 guys into an All Black environment, first Test match, the benefit they get from a game like this sometimes can be more than winning by 20 or 30.
Yeah, without a doubt, especially you just said the 4 debutants. They now have a taste of it. They know exactly what it's like. And you know, I want to go back to my earlier comment. I don't want to overreact, but it was just your standard first Test match of the year, especially for the All Blacks. So they're still trying to work things out. They had 10 days together. They will be much better this weekend, I'm sure. But also, you do have to give credit to the French because they came out and they're just going to compete for the rest of the series, I'm sure.
Angus, what did you see of the way that we played last night?
For me, I noticed, and I haven't heard too much noise. You know, I've played Super Rugby, so I'm on smoker a little bit. But I thought the pace that the All Blacks set, the try just before half-time, the ruck speed was less than 3 seconds every single time. Boys cleaning high corners. There'd be a little bit of a gain line from someone. Straight away, the next person's looking to pick, get behind them. With those big French boys, especially, you see them puffing. I've seen the ice spray come out at about 80 minutes. And then when it came down to the final pass, the right decision was made. And when people are saying it was a good game, that's what I believe. The good opportunities, good taken.
If we'd finished a number of our opportunities, Beaver, this game could have been vastly different. When you get tries ruled out, the fact there's smallest errors, of which, though, all of them are probably accurate. We'll talk about some of those a little bit later on in the show. But ultimately, the way we played, there is an element of risk when you play like that. We finally looked as though we were pulling the trigger and being prepared to throw that pass, where I think last year we weren't prepared to throw some of those. No,
and I think you talk about the element of risk. I think we want to see a bit element of risk because we know the skill level that the boys have got when they are playing that high-tempo game, up-speed game. And I just look to you talk about comparing it to last year. I look at the counter-attack, for example, obviously not just the run back, but what we're doing off it. I felt last year we were probably setting to then get territory and kick it back to them, where Roigard, he got to the base of rucks quickly off a McKenzie or a Will Jordan carryback, and we went straight away quickly. And I thought that was a major shift, and I think that's why people are more than satisfied with the performance that they saw, even though it wasn't maybe the big scoreline that we predicted.
Cruz, in regards to Damien McKenzie coming on so early in the game, the fact that, and unfortunately for Sevu Reece, who's not going to be available for next week, do you think the game plan changed at all, or was this always the plan? Even if Will Jordan had been at fullback, do you get the sense this was the way that they were going to play regardless who was at the back?
Yeah, possibly. It's hard to speculate, but what I do love about what Damien did was he was thinking run first, wasn't he, Goldie? And that's, I suppose, when Damien's at his best. Even this, retrieving a long kick and just aiming to get the All Blacks back over halfway, and that's what we want to see. That's what I guess is a bit of our point of difference, the ability to play up-tempo. When it's on to run, actually challenge the line and then let our skill sets do the talking based on what the defence gives us. And I think he was a big catalyst for that.
In some ways, I think it would have been a confidence builder. His role changed very quickly, Beaver, didn't it? The fact that he goes from the guy who's thinking he's making an impact in the last 20 to being the All Black fullback again. Are we fortunate we've got someone with that ability to switch into the mindset you need and be able to adapt with what the team's trying to do? Yeah,
I think so. And Crud's touched on it there. McKenzie's at his best when he is run first, and all that other stuff is peripheral. And when he's running first, he's as dangerous as anyone in the world when it comes to running, as far as counter-attack goes. So, no, I think it fell in a lapse because of Sevu's injury, but it probably paid dividends in the end.
Right, let's talk the platform. Let's talk the platform because it starts up front. The fact that we didn't have Tyrell Lomax. He wasn't available. We had no Tamaiti Williams. The fact the responsibility fell with other players to set a platform. Did you like what we saw, particularly at set piece?
I thought they set a great platform. I thought the scrum created opportunities. I look at Fletcher Newell, who had a massive end of Super Rugby season, playing 80 minutes. Ethan de Groot, who I thought, has he trimmed down a little bit? He's looking fit. Obviously, opportunities arisen there. And then even around the set piece, I thought they created some great space for Cody Taylor, Samasoni to look for space off those mauls and get on the back foot. So for guys who have been there before and played there, I thought they're stepping into this role and really putting their hand up.
All right, we have to at some point talk about our debutants, because Christian Leawili originally wasn't probably going to be involved in this test match, and as soon as Wallace Satiti gets ruled out, Gus, I'm going to stay with you here, the fact, because this is in your wheelhouse, and the fact that you know what the guys in the back row expected to do. How did you think he went, given he probably wasn't expecting to be a part of this a couple of weeks ago?
Oh, I think for a man to start at number 8, literally after coming as injury cover, then being forced into play the starting number 8 role and his debut, he knows this field well. You know, you touched on it being down there. I think what he's done is he's grinded from a young age. You know, he's had to work hard, he's had to back himself, and his skill set around the field, look, he might not be the biggest guy that you've ever seen, but the heart he shows, the smarts he shows, and what he does around the field, I think that's a great first test for him.
Did you like what you saw?
Loved it, yep, and he's extremely deserving of, I think, that start, although it came from being initially named as an injury replacement, but his form through Super Rugby was outstanding, and I like it when guys are given an opportunity based on form, putting your hands up. And he said, I think I heard him say pre-game, the boys made it easy for him. You know, they got around him, they just said, look, this is clear what your role is. He went out there and delivered that.
Fabian Holland, the story during the week clearly was his story, where he's come from, what he's done to try and become an All Black. It's happened down in Dunedin for him with Otago and the Highlanders and the way he's played. In terms of his first shift, Beaver, you've got to be really happy with the fact that all of the fundamentals of the game, he looked really clear about how he was going to impact this game. Once again, did you enjoy the way he, I suppose, held the All Black jersey up this week?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you talk about going out and doing your job, and you know, obviously we
16 from 16.
Yeah,
that's a day at the office.
we realise what sort of physical specimen he is, but he didn't have to be flashy. But he went around, he carried hard. As you saw, the clips there, the tackles were there. Obviously, all his set piece work, and obviously, and we'll talk about later, but the Tupou Vai able to free him up to go to 6 because they were confident that him and Barrett were going to be rock solid together.
I have to ask you then, Gus, we're going to go through them. Ollie Norris, first time, once again, a guy who played his way into the All Blacks through form. You're not sure he was going to be involved if maybe Tamaiti Williams is available, but do you like what he's done?
Oh, mate, I think Crud's talked about Leawili. Here's another man who's earned the spot. And there was some competition that front row, but he came on. I felt like he was really clear. I felt like he was confident in who he was. He earned a great scrum penalty there. But he's a guy who's changed from number 8 to prop at a older age. And to see his growth when I was first at the Chiefs to now where he is, his scrummaging is world class, and around the field has always been world class. So those two things together, plus they're talking about big bodies, he's a big man. He's a big man. So I thought he stepped in greatly, and when Tamaiti comes back, there's going to be some serious questions.
And lastly, du Plessis-Kirifi. The way that he has fought, he has stayed loyal to New Zealand rugby, and it was always going to be a difficult game. And you think for all of those players, they're going into a test match, their very first test match, where the game is one score.
Yeah.
Cruz, one score, the difference between teams. And for them to come out the other side of it, and a real sense of relief from du Plessis. Most importantly thing, it's a nice memory to have, a win on your first test.
Absolutely, and even when you heard du Plessis speak after the game, he just wanted to get out there and contribute to a team's performance. And a lot of his messaging this season, I feel, has been the way that he can contribute to the team, right? And I think he went out there, obviously there would have been a lot of emotion, you know, he's worked so hard for it, and I think what I really enjoyed too, there was a wholesome moment in the crowd with his parents after the game as well, and just how proud they were. His father said, I think the resilience that he's shown, and his mum was actually in tears, and that's pretty amazing. I also heard too, which was quite cool, that he was a ball boy in my test debut all the way back in 2010 in Taranaki, so that is wicked. So congratulations to all those boys.
You're still playing.
Stories, yeah.
Oh, I don't know if you could say playing, I'm limping around.
Didn't realise how young he was.
I was too chubby to be a ball boy. I was more eating hot chips.
I was a ball boy at Rugby Park in Southland. I was a ball boy.
Beaver, you must have been a ball boy.
Nah, never got that gig.
Never got that gig?
Waiuku, mate?
I was a ball boy for Damien McKenzie's dad. I was when he was playing fullback for Southland. We digress. I've gone on a completely different tangent there. I do want to shift a little bit of attention about a couple of areas in particular for the All Blacks. So a lot of discussion going into this first game. Blindside flanker and centre. The fact that Rieko Ioane had shifted to the wing, Billy Proctor and Tupou Vai on the blind side of the scrum. Was there, out of those two players, the effect, did it work? Did you like what you saw, particularly from Tupou?
Yeah, for me, I love what I saw with Big Tupou. I feel like he's always had the skill set to do that. He's not your Jerome Kaino or or your big dog who's going to stand and bang. He brings a bit more finesse to it. But what he does, when you have Artie, you have Duplessis, guys like that, who are a little bit shorter, that line-out option, who he's controlled. He's the All Blacks Player of the Year last year. He's great over the ball. He's got great footwork. He's got great handling. And look, he gets a little meat pie. I think for his first test, big test at 6, there's definitely something there.
And they wanted physicality. They felt they needed physicality. Here's a guy whose form through Super Rugby and last year was outstanding. So let's go through with Billy Proctor then, because it was probably evident for a long, long time that Rieko Ioane was going to play on the wing. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit later on in terms of the wings. But Billy Proctor, Beaver, for you, getting just his second test opportunity, how did he go?
Well, and considering I think his other one was against Fiji, so this was his first real big one, I thought. And look, the game didn't flow for him like it did probably for the Hurricanes in the back end of Super Rugby, where he got a lot more ball and space. You saw what sort of carries he was doing. Obviously, that marginal try got disallowed. But I think, he'd be happy enough. Obviously, there was the defensive probably misread, or not so much of a misread, but sort of a mistake from him and Geordie for that first French try about how they would defend that differently. And it's probably obviously Billy a bit tighter. But by and large, you've got to persevere for him. We obviously know that Rico's there and what he can do at 13, but Billy Proctor gets another crack for me and to build on that.
What I'm going to do now is change tact, because we talk about our factory here in New Zealand, gents. We talk about exactly what we've been able to create over time, the depth that we have. You've talked about a lot of competitions around the world, Beaver, but I think this is evidence that clearly France are doing something right. Cruz. The fact that I caught up with Ma Nonu last week, and he's played a lot in France and then recently in Toulon, and he said to me that he believes that their system right now is the best in the world. It continues to produce world-class players and young players. Their under-20 team very, very good. Should we be concerned that they've brought this team, and I won't say a B team, an extended and wide squad to New Zealand and almost beaten the All Blacks?
I don't know if we should be concerned. I think we should just, step up to the challenge that they're going to bring, regardless of who it is. Like, there's been a lot that has been said all week around, they hear the external noise, but they're just going to go out and give it everything. And even playing a little bit of rugby over in the top 14 in France, I know the depth is strong there, like what they've been able to do and what they've been able to create. And what I love is they're just not afraid to blood young players at test level, surround them by a few of the experienced guys, and their depth is extremely strong, Gus.
I think they've just gone from strength to strength, and you see what, say, a World Cup does to a nation, and the excitement that builds around young, potential rugby players. And you look around that top 14 at the moment, it's exciting. The stands are packed, there's flares going off. People want to turn up, people want to play rugby. That means more people who might go for football or basketball want to go into this factory that you're talking about.
And you talk about the factory, you mentioned, Goldie, they put huge emphasis on that 20s program. They go about winning it. Obviously, friends who are still over there playing, they talk about how the academy systems have changed, where they can't just bring in a whole of foreign guys. They've got to have X amount of local boys in their academy. So, yeah, mate, they're doing it right as far as being able to blood through. And because they've got about 3 divisions of professional teams, so they can blood them through.
But we say we put resource and support into our under-20s group. But when I look at this, I mean, if we were the other way round and we sent our wider squad to France and played the number 1 team, we'd be ecstatic with a result like this, surely. If we've gone and got that close with our New Zealand 15 team against the strongest, because that would be fair, that's the strongest fit and available All Black side.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you could see after the game the images of the French team going around, clapping. They looked like they knew they could possibly win that test match. So that's why I think the series it's going to be great. And it's going to be a great learning curve for our All Blacks team. And I think too, what I am interested to see this week leading into Wellington is the adjustments they make, because we played in Dunedin under the roof last night. So what are we going to change to, keep that point of difference for us?
When you look at the way that we're playing and the way that France are playing, and you look across the Lions, and we'll talk to them in the second part of the show, the nature of the contest, what we're seeing from the opposition, have we got to learn, just keep learning? We started to see some things, maybe, Beaver, that other teams have done and we've started to execute maybe a little bit better. Have we just got to keep learning and start learning off other teams?
Oh, I think to a point though, but I think we still want to keep what we're good at. I mean, for me, one of the big things from last night is we found an ability to keep the tempo to a point that I don't think they could live with. We saw the fake injuries and what have you for that second part of that first half.
Fake injuries?
Well, come on. We all know.
Did you see? Hold on, Gus. Did you see any fake injuries?
Look,
From a front row, you've gone down before.
Hey.
Come on.
when I saw the big man down in the ice spray going, I definitely thought there was...
Are you saying ice spray doesn't
maybe a
work?
call.
Does ice spray not work?
Honestly,
We used to tell them when to go down.
Oh, right.
We had a whistle for them.
there's probably a call for it.
But that's an important part of it, right?
Exactly.
What are you talking about?
And so what I'm saying is, you're talking about learning. How do we keep that 20 minutes going and pass it through to the second half to take them to a level that they will start falling apart in? And I think that second half of first half was good indication of that.
Well, we're having our voice here on the breakdown. You're having your voice with your shout, and we've given you this opportunity to decide who's going to play on the right wing this weekend coming up after Severis is ruled out. Amoni Narawa, Will Jordan, after shifting to the wing, Caleb Clark or Timothy Tavatava-Nawai. And it is well and truly split. Absolutely. I'm fascinated to see how this builds towards the end of the show. We will discuss that very, very soon. Well, it was a massive weekend, the first weekend in Dunedin. An outstanding weekend for fans and players and supporters alike. And Joey Wheeler, once again, he enjoyed all the festivities.
Look at you, son! How are you, Joey? How good are you, buddy? Your fizz, I've got more fizz than me. Come on, boy. We don't have DuPont, but we have Leblanc.
He's the man tonight!
Come on, mate. Ethan de Groot's going to score. We're here just for the sport. Just for the sport. France, All Blacks here.
Always special, always a tough place to come and play and win a test match, isn't it?
Maybe for them. I think the All Blacks going to kick some ass tonight.
Yes!
Hey, how are you enjoying Dunedin?
I don't understand English.
You don't speak English?
La patrie, le jour de gloire est arrivé.
Hey, my mic. What the hell? Get out of here.
The disrespect, like a finely tuned piano, will come out in the second half and yeah.
Good analogy that, mate. Love it. Go get back to your piano, Elton John.
Sing us a song, young piano man. Sing us a song tonight.
Talk to me about Dunedin, this place, playing a test match down here, tough place to come.
Firstly, I'd like to speak about Christchurch Crusaders.
No, mate. Get out of here.
This team, and we're proud, very proud. It was a really good game. Thank you so much, friends. We love you.
Worked out well, down for Warner-Jones. Oh, they've got the dummy move in the middle. Oh, the ball released back inside. That's really nice for Ishida. And gets the ball away from Matsunaga. Oh, it's a super try for Japan.
Stymied initially by Georgia, but now Tane Harvey, a long looped ball. Watch out, it's Saunoa, and he's done it again.
Cutout pass this time as McDowell looks to try and free the player on the outside. Hutchinson, beautiful pass. Scotland at their very best. What a try. George Horn. What a try. George Horn. The ball there from Mangala. And it found the turf. Slipper can't get his man. But comes one of the most dangerous men on the field. Winding up. He gets it over the top. This will be special. Oh, it's a stunner from a flying Mitchell sends it away to Pelotu. Flat at the line. It'll know the ball away. He's a stunner for Joy.
Seriously, a short ball from the Lions is one of the 5 best tries of the weekend. There's been some great action across the globe. Those are 5 of the very, very best. Important tries, absolutely important.
Goldie, are we missing something? Because
are you missing something?
There's a first ever Rugby World Cup qualifying Hong Kong, China, 63-23 win over South Korea. We've got to mention that, surely.
Just for you.
We've got to mention this. Go on, lad. Rugby World Cup 2027, get in. Hong Kong, China.
Hong Kong, China. Massive congratulations go out. If you want to know what's happened, they have qualified. The World Cup has grown from 20 to 24 teams. And was that a golden oldie scrum that was a pushover? Because I think that's what it looked like. But congratulations. Well done. Massive
Hong Kong, China.
Performance. Hong Kong, China. They're going to a Rugby World Cup. Can't wait to see them get to Australia. Well, the Lions, they've been in action. It has been huge for them this tour so far. We've seen the Wallabies, they took on Fiji. But the Lions had a win over the Waratahs. That happened last night. This is how their tour is going so far. In Australia, dominant over the Force, dominant over the Reds, then they had to go to work. Some accusations that there might have been some moisture left on the ground at Allianz Stadium in Sydney. This is what's coming up, though. They've got the Brumbies on Wednesday. That's in Canberra. That'll be chilly. And then there's the Anzac Invitational involving a number of Kiwis, taking them on in Adelaide. And there it is, the first test between Australia and the British and Irish Lions. What a series it's going to be. The First Nations and the Pacifica 15 taking them on the 22nd of July, and then those last 2 test matches. And Stephen Donald was very, very bullish about the Lions. Well, no, you're about Australia.
Australia.
And then you backtracked a little bit.
Yep.
And now you've seen some form from the Lions,
yes.
and they look really good. And the Wallabies battled. They had to score in the 78th minute against Fiji today. How confident are you now that the Wallabies can win?
Yeah, look, I've talked to the Brisbane Fire Brigade and they're going to put all the hoses in there and we're going to wet all fields from now on, like the Waratahs did apparently. But yeah, look, the Lions so far, yes, last night was a bit different, but they've been so impressive. I've loved the brand of footy they've been playing, Goldie. They've, through Finn Russell, through Jamison Gibson Park, they're playing at a width that I don't think any of us anticipated. Yes, they've still got the traditional strength up front, but I've been really impressed with how dynamic they've been, Krantz.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been a real blend, hasn't it? I think they're sticking to their fundamentals and we know what that is. But then also creating a little bit of space and deception there. And this guy's gone awesome. You know, young Mitchell there at 9, he's been a real catalyst for them so far.
Yeah, just off the back of that, I've been loving to see how they've been playing with little over-the-top passes, open play, offloads. All of that is just so contrary to what I know of a Lions team. And sure, it might be the influence of Kiwis and Aussies, and you know we won't mention that too much, but it's exciting footy and I think a great way to build up against these Super Rugby teams to lead into Australia.
The platform, though, are they still going to look at that as a real opportunity? The fact what they'll do up front, is that where they will target? Because we expected them to come down to Australia and try and dominate up front. The fact they're playing some outstanding rugby on the back of some real gameplay, of which, let's be honest, Ireland had created that. The majority of this team have come into this group, and clearly that's where Andy Farrell's coaching them. Do you look at the platform, though, and still, you know, that's their insurance? A little bit like South Africa. They've got an insurance that not many teams have.
Oh, look, I'm talking about what I've loved to be seeing, how they're playing. It's different to what I know. It doesn't change the fact that DNA is still there with their scrum, with their maul. They've created multiple opportunities against the Waratahs, multiple penalties off the back of their scrum. So, and that's with a lot of their big dogs not even starting. So I definitely think that's the DNA, but the addition of what they're putting into that game is exciting for a Lions team.
I was looking forward to today's game. And once again, you gave a shout-out to France. I'm giving a shout-out to Fiji. Because they're like Argentina. They come together. They don't get many opportunities. The Wallabies got out to a fast start, Crudes, but then all of a sudden, the wheels fell off. And it's a little bit like what the Force did and the Reds did. They played well for about 20 minutes, and then all of a sudden, they lose their way. Would they be concerned that this wasn't a better performance? Mind you, that's some sort of try.
That's an outstanding try, that one. Yeah, I suppose similar to what I said with the All Blacks first test, so you don't necessarily need to overreact, but there will be certain areas of concern for Joe Schmidt and the Wallabies, and probably just seeing how well the Lions have come together and gelled, right? That's going to be, I suppose, where the Wallabies possibly need to improve. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting series. Yeah, I don't know who I'm sort of favouring
Well,
right now.
Still Goldie, I think, as everyone's talked about, and you've pointed out to me many times, and I've been bullish, it's the 9-10 options for the Wallabies and how you talked about how they potentially allowed Fiji back into the game. It was the game management.
But Noah Lolaseo's gone off again today, and that's concerning for them because he is their major game driver.
Yes.
I mean, if he's been their best first 5 through Super Rugby. He was the man they used last year. I mean, if they lose him, the guy that they've been relying on, who steps up?
Well, they're going to then have to toss up between Donaldson or Liner, who obviously haven't got the same experience as Lolosea, and someone who the Lions would then apply a massive blowtorch to as far as that first test goes. But when you look at the Aussie today, especially, I just thought it was the reasons that Fiji probably came back in was probably they were allowed to come back in for game management there at times.
All right, you can't ignore the TMO because they're everywhere right now. And we did anticipate this. We talked about it over the last couple of weeks on the show, that it's different to Super Rugby. The international game and the way World Rugby wants the game adjudicated. The fact there are 2 men upstairs, one looking for particular plays and the other looking for foul play, means there are now 5 sets of eyes. And we saw this weekend. And we saw one today, Beaver. And I know you're hot on this, and I want all the opinions of all of you. The fact that when you're looking at something 8 times, they looked at this 8 times to decide this is a forward pass.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you get to 3 or 4, for me, it's game over because we'll just go for what the referee's seen and what the on-field people, because what's 8 versus 5 versus 6 going to determine? All it's going to determine is it's going to put people asleep on their couches at home. For me, Gotti, it's either we're getting ref from upstairs, which is fine if they can do it in live time, like I think we saw some knock-ons yesterday, maybe 2 phases late, that's fine. If we can do it that quick, then so be it. But it's the committee meetings of the 3 on field, it's the talking to the guy upstairs, and then looking at big screens, which just takes all the air out of the game.
And you're speaking at home here, you're looking at it and going, we only want 2/3 of the time foul play only. I think we've got to be very, very careful here because I think you can almost trace this back to 2007 when a forward pass in a Rugby World Cup knocked the All Blacks out. I mean, if you think about it, right?
Yep.
The clear and obvious. And I think that's the most important thing. If you start talking about this, 20% thinking foul play and knock-ons. But I do think it's important when games are so very, very tight, Gus, that if it is clear and obvious, you can't ignore it.
No, and this has been a debate for as long, even as I've been playing, we went from there's not enough of it to captain's challenges to way too much TMO, and we've got to find this middle ground where it's smart. If you're talking about a TMO comes in, that should just be the call for knock-ons and that. If there's a bit of interpretation in there, but you don't need to spend 2 minutes and 27 seconds to review something. We're talking about taking away scrums and mauls because the game's slow, but we've got TMOs going for almost 3 minutes. Time to get up and grab a fresh cold one. Like, you don't need that in a game of rugby. You want it to be sped up.
Some people do want that in a game of rugby.
Hey,
time to go and a fresh cold one. Let's be honest. You were on the couch watching the game, were you?
Yeah, I had time to get a dozen, actually.
Run down to the store.
Cruz, from your perspective, how do you see it?
Yeah, it's just a little bit contradictory to me because, as we said, we want the game to be fast and we're trying to speed it up in certain areas, but then the TMO just, often when they come in at the moment, it seems to... And I liked what the comment was there. It sucks all the enjoyment out of it for the viewers. And, you know, you can clearly see at times too, I think last night, Nick Berry, like, visibly, once the TMO said, oh, we've got to check this, he was getting a little bit frustrated with it too because I think as referees, they just want the game to flow as well, right? And I think that's what we all do. So whether it's a lack of alignment somewhere, but yeah, there needs to be some tweaking of this somewhere to get us what we want, Gus.
I do want to do a shout out though to Paul Williams because he took control of the game last night for the Waratahs where the TMO was adamant he wanted to go back for foul play. And there are so many contestable parts of the game. It wasn't for that there, it was for this clean out. The fact for me, how many times do you see that collision in a game? And I think we've got to be very, very careful. The fact that when you start looking at simple motions or simple things that are common in the game, let's listen to him.
We believe it is a legal clean-out action. We have signed off the try. It is a blue player trying to get back to his feet and score the try, so the try stands.
The fact that he stuck to his guns, he wasn't talked into the fact that it might have been an element of foul play, but there was a number of things to me. If they're consistent in the game, they have to be consistent across the park. The obstruction called for the All Blacks. Now, that obstruction happens so many times in the game, but doesn't get called until a try is scored. The screening at line-out time when the 2 lifters come and screen, but that happens 50 metres out, doesn't get penalised. You have to be consistent across the ground. Look, there was some outstanding reasons to bring in the TMO sometimes. I think the most important one when there's a fire at the ground. I think that's really, really important. And this is what happens to the New Zealand under-20 side. They're playing Georgia, and that's when the TMO, I think, Gus can come in. I've got no issues with him coming in here and going, you know what? Let's call the fire brigade.
Do they even have the TMO in the under-20s? Maybe we need to strip it right back and get a few fires going just to bring the life back to it and get rid of the TMO. You know, let's start the conversation.
That's remarkable. That's absolutely remarkable. Let's talk about the fact that there were some surprise results over the weekend. Argentina got walloped at home by a second-string England team. This is the Argentina. Who did they beat? They beat the Lions. I mean, what's going on here? I mean, the score was 3-0 at half-time to England, and it was a George Ford drop goal. I mean, what is happening with Argentina?
Yeah, it's hard to put your finger on it, right? Because when they're good, they're so good, but it just seems to be when they're off, they're just dead cold.
Is this a classic case of an All Blacks, you get a win and then the next week the All Blacks put 40 on them, you know what I mean? There's such a passionate side that live up for this big moment, and once they're over it, it sort of takes a little bit for them to actually come and bounce back. Maybe that's the biggest growth they need in their game.
England didn't look overly stoked. Like, I mean, like this, there's a trophy. I mean, I don't know what's going on there. The fact that you've gone into Argentina, yes, that's not easy. That's not easy at all. Can we have a look at that again? Just show me the game. Look at this. Watch this. George Ford gets it. I don't know what they're playing for. Wow. Love your rugby, lads. Love your rugby. Yeah. Stoked to be there. Yeah. Stoked to be there. I'll tell you who's not stoked to be in Japan. That's Wales, because for the 18th time against a Tier 1 nation, they've gone down. The sunshine, Beaver, this is hot in Japan.
Yeah, if you've been in Japan in July, you don't want to be playing rugby. It is extremely hot over there, and I think the Japanese are smart making this an afternoon game against the Welsh. It would be feeling a bit different to the Valleys. But, I mean, golly, these are two teams who have had horrible years, if not 2 or 3 years. And I dare say something was going to give for both these teams as far as this series goes.
Rock bottom? I mean, it's got to be worse than that. Like, what can Wales do, Gus? I mean, I get it. Japan, full respect once again for Japan and the fact that you see what they're trying to do and the way that they're playing, and they've always been able to do that. And not easy for the Welsh to go there on those conditions, but this is clearly not good enough for a Six Nations team to have those sort of results.
Do we need to go to like an NBA or NFL type thing and just start tanking? Just chucking all your blood, your young players. Get your next generation.
I think they're already doing that.
Well, maybe
clearly they are, because this is 18 in a row. I'm sad and disappointed. They're only missing 3 players in the Lions team. I mean, Cruz, as much as we can laugh about this is actually not funny. You're talking about the global game. This is a team that's been to the semi-finals of a Rugby World Cup, so we've got a steep history in the game. I just don't want this to continue.
Nah, absolutely not. It's not great for the game, and obviously domestically in Wales. And I think too, obviously, Warren Gatland last year was brought back in to try and resurrect it, but I think you can clearly see now that the problem runs a lot deeper than that. So, yeah, they're in a tough spot right now, and I don't know where they head to after this, if they're tanking or whatever you said it is, Gus, but it's tough, right?
It's deeper than at ground level,
yeah.
And they need to start that from the top. Whatever that is, they'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, I feel for them, because this is not the direction I want them to head. I want them to be competitive. I will say this, Italy were very competitive in South Africa. I thought this might have been dangerous territory after South Africa did a number on the Barbarians, but South Africa got out to a comfortable lead, played well, but didn't finish Italy off. Congratulations to Italy for staying in the fight. We're going to start looking forward after the break, because next weekend there's a couple of massive games, not just one, but 2 coming to you out of Wellington.
Next weekend, International Rugby takes over Sky Stadium for a double-header in Wellington. The Blackburns face the Wallaroos.
Got it back brilliantly for Duplessis, Vahakolo in the left-hand corner.
Their final test before heading to the World Cup in England.
In your life, have you ever seen anything like it?
Then the All Blacks return to the capital for a classic clash against France. A storied rivalry filled with unforgettable moments.
Williams came out of it second best. Marshall delivers off to Brown, slaps it to Wilson. In his first visit to the stadium, gets the opening try. Here's Joe Moody. The big loose head prop.
Catch the action Wellington, live on Sky Sport.
Yes, a massive weekend coming in the capital, and the Black Ferns, they had a hit out on the weekend against the Black Ferns 15. In terms of a trial, they're taking on the Wallaroos. It starts at 4 p.m. on a Saturday, and then it's followed by the second test between the French and the All Blacks. That build-up starts live 6:35 p.m. Looking forward to those contests, remembering that World Cup for the Black Ferns is live and exclusive on Sky right here. So we asked you to put your coaching hat on now. We're going to start looking forward. So where do the All Blacks need to improve ahead of next week? So we've asked you, and of course you've split the vote. It means we've got to talk about both of them now, which is quite good, because clearly they're actually linked together, aren't they, in terms of controlling the high ball and working on the defence. So Razor, once again, if you're watching, OK, take care of the high ball, gentlemen. What can we do better, Beaver, if we're a back three or if it's Beaver in the backfield? How do we help? How do we control the air? Because when we play against some bigger teams, it's going to be critical.
Well, you start at the kick pressure and you go after the kickers, and therefore the contestable kicks aren't exactly always on the money. You can't do the big shields. That I always liked when I was catching one. I'd like to have 4 guys around me to block the...
That's illegal now. That's illegal.
That's illegal. So you need to go after the pressurising of the kick itself to free them up, and then obviously it's winning the air in it, Cruds.
It is, and I think the All Blacks will know, based on last night too, that there's already an area for them to be working in their individual, IPP blocks, and it does come down to a little bit of individual accountability as well. I think I like what you said, if you can pressure the kick first and foremost, but also there are still going to be kicks that are contestable, and you've just got to go up and try and own the air.
What can you do to help them? If you're up front with the big fellas, you can't run the screens like you used to, drop the odd shoulder. What are you doing to help the fellas out the back?
But I'm glad you did ask me from a forward's perspective, because I'm not catching these high balls. I wouldn't trust myself as it is. But although you can't create those gloves that fullbacks used to love, you can do it a bit earlier at the line of where the kick back into your own backfield is. So that's a matter of seeing who the threats are. I'm sure they'll do some previews. For example, David Havili would come from the outside as a Crusader, so we'd look to give a little check just to create half a second more for the fullbacks to get it. So it's that awareness of the frontline players. If there is someone steaming through, you don't obviously check and give a penalty, but be aware to change his angle.
And to be fair, Scott Barrett, we got a try from a charge down.
Yep.
That pressure, the fact he put the pressure on, got us an opportunity in their 22. So not putting, I suppose, too many eggs in one basket, but making sure we get some protection, which you can't do, but you need numbers around the ball to clean it up. They were desperate, though, and they did it well. Defensively, though, are we concerned, Cruds, the fact that there were line breaks against an All Blacks defence, and like you say, you said, don't want to be too harsh on it, but there were some simple things that maybe the All Blacks could have done better.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think when they watch back the defensive clips, there's already going to be a little bit of edge there, right? Like, they're going to know individuals, whether they didn't quite get their assignment right, and they obviously know the French were prepared to play. Whether that'll be slightly different in Wellington with the conditions, I guess we will see, but Will Jordan was interviewed after the game and said he's extremely happy with the points scored, but extremely disappointed with probably the points that they leaked in.
Yeah, I think it's understanding the moment. Like, a lot of their tries were off the back of good moments from the All Blacks, and you need to back that up and keep stacking good moments. And when we switch to the defensive side, like that try straight after half-time, I think they put 16 phases together. Quick ball, not too much pressure at the breakdown, then that created that overlap for them to score easily. So it's understanding, where you are in the game, being aware of what's happening, and then backing up really good things.
It's interesting that the fans at home aren't worried about kicking or our attack. The fact that, and I think that's reflected on the fact that we did do some really, really good things. Is it the case that maybe our fans just believe the fact, let's not kick it? Is that what you're thinking, Beaver? Because obviously territory is a really important part of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they go hand in hand. I thought that the attack actually is something that we can probably get the most improvement out of. When I think about, I talked about tempo at the start of the game, if we can do that for longer periods, if we can get better at the turnover balls that we're creating. We've got lots of guys who are creating turnovers, but let's be more savage on it once we get it. And that's the time to burn a French D that isn't set as far as the attack goes, Goldie. So I think they go hand in hand, the kicking and the attack.
Theo Tissagobe, the fullback, was outstanding in terms of covering those. A lot of fullbacks wouldn't have read those situations. Not often Beauden Barrett's chip gets picked on and turned, and with his speed, he covered a lot of opportunities. And like you say, I think we read some spaces really well. It was just great to see our ball get into the outside channels. Yep. It didn't get there last weekend. Now, though, if you're going to use the outside channels, who is going to replace Sever Reece on the wing? and this is what you've decided. I was thinking it was going to be Timothy Tavatavanawa, but you like him. You think it's an option. He can play in the midfield, don't forget that. Maybe he's your man off the bench, but Amoni Narawa is the man who's getting the call up here. Obviously, Rieko Ioane was, I think, finding his feet, but I'm not surprised that Amoni Cruds has got the call here because this is what I love. Footwork, offloads. To me, he was special during Super Rugby.
Yeah, he was outstanding, and I think what also, out of all of the 4 guys there, he's a traditional right winger. You know, as you've said, and whether you want to replace a right winger with a right winger, he certainly deserved, in my opinion, of an opportunity. I think he got a little crack last year against Fiji and then was put on the outer, but I think he's come back and his form has been outstanding, and I wouldn't be against that.
Anyone tempted to start with what finished after the last 79 minutes with Damien McKenzie at fullback?
Yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with any of those 4 options you've chucked up, but I'm of the 19% variety there, Goldie. I'm keeping Will Jordan there on the right, Damien McKenzie at fullback to bank what they did last night and to go again. The question is Will Jordan any different from 15 to winger? He's so busy, he gets so active from a winger's point of view as well as a 15, Goldie. It doesn't really seem to matter when he's on the field, does it?
And I think what we've talked about earlier, it's not just who the right wing is, that determines who the fullback is, and what DMAC brought into that test match, getting it back to halfway, run first mentality, getting in behind of the French defence, I thought really helped change the game and spark, great moments throughout it.
It's interesting for me because if you look around the globe, in terms of the wingers that are having great success, it's the ones that have footwork. And I think Damien McKenzie fits that mould. We talk winger, but it's the likes of Odense, it's the likes of Colby plus South Africa, Pinot for France when he's playing. These are guys that have got great footwork, and we saw McKenzie, he was everywhere. Now, sometimes that's hard to play with.
Yep.
I'm happy with it's more creative and it's such a threat with the ball. Now, sometimes he takes the odd shot. He's not afraid to get hit. But I'd rather have players have the ability to beat men because you need to have something special now because defences are so very solid. When you look at that group, where does that leave Rieko Ioane right now? How much longer do we look at him on the wing and how much time do we give him to get back to what he was doing well when he was playing in the 11 jersey?
Oh, I think he gets a massive pass, like a massive
window.
Yep. I mean, we know that we could end up in Australia, and if we haven't settled on our midfield, we know what we're going to get for Rieko. We've got an experienced midfielder that can go out there and start at 13. But I think with what we've got now in the midfield, it's worth the experiment of him going back to the left wing. And look, that's his first game starting on the left wing for the All Blacks for probably 4 or 5 years, I'm guessing. So I think he gets as much time as he needs.
Let's talk to specialist positions then. Let's talk about up front. Anticipating any changes, or is it all just injury dependent? Are the only changes you want, Gus, to be forced changes?
100%. Yeah, I think that forward pack, front row, really stepped up, put their hand up and where they needed to, and really like Tupou at 6. Holland, great debut. I don't think there's going to be many changes. Bench-wise, I think there might be with Paddy Tuipulotu potentially coming back. He played and trained through a bad shoulder, and I think he's probably just taking a little bit longer but I'd say be rearing to go next week, and that will be another conversation to have.
I saw Luke Jacobson getting through his work as well, so maybe he might be available for selection. Any changes for you, Cruz?
Yeah, possibly not in the starting 15, or apart from obviously the right winger or what they're going to decide there. But yeah, whether they can tweak a few things on the bench to give guys opportunities and see what it's all about.
Who is it then? Who would you like to see? I mean, Quinn got a taste and Quinn looked really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see Timothy Tavatavanawa. I think they've picked him in the squad for a reason, and he's going to get a go at some stage in the series, whether that's Wellington or Hamilton. I guess we'll wait to see. But yeah, I'd love to see him go out there and just give it everything.
I think in regards to what you're looking at McKenzie, it gives them the opportunity to do that if he starts, because then all of a sudden you can carry because he covers 10, right? You can carry another couple of guys. In terms of this weekend, in terms of momentum, are we simply just wanting the All Blacks to be better?
Yeah, I think the 15 guys that are fit and healthy that we sort of finished with by the end, they go again. The same likes Tupou if he's available. Obviously, that back line, I think you just bank them and go again and they'll be better.
There's no roof on it though, Gus. There's no roof on this stadium in Wellington. I mean, this means it could be a vastly different contest. We saw what happened to the Lions against the Waratahs, right?
Yeah, but knowing how the All Blacks are and what they've done in the past, they'll still back that skill set, that pace. It will be sort of what Beaver touched on earlier, is if it does change in the game, how quickly they can adapt, whether they need to tighten it up, play it a bit slower to set it up. That'll be the big question.
For you, in terms of this performance of the All Blacks, in terms of what would you like to see to convince you we've taken a step forward?
Probably what Gus has just said, and that's because that's more of my tactic head on, you know, like the ability that, okay, we go in with plan A. If plan A isn't quite working, how quickly can we change to plan B to wrestle the momentum back off the French, try and, you know, almost put it to bed at half-time and not invite them back into the game early in the second half like we possibly did last night.
Can't wait. I cannot wait for next weekend in Wellington. Thank you very much for joining us in your shout. It's been a great breakdown. Thanks, Beaver. Thanks, Gus. Welcome back. Thanks, Cruds. And we will see you in 7 days' time here as we discuss the All Blacks again after a second test, 2025.
A 120-year rivalry full of twists and turns, the unexpected and the spectacular. It can only be the All Blacks against France. Here's Adesombe. He's very quick. He slipped through the first tackle.